Hey everybody, I hope and pray that you're doing well. Today, as we come to our word from the Word, and today that word is peace. Peace. Now, as you get to Exodus chapter 18, you will find that Moses is run into another problem. And this time, he doesn't even realize that he really had the problem. It wasn't until his father-in-law, right? Now, a lot of times we talk bad about in-laws, but he's thankful to have a father-in-law that will give him some advice from something that he sees. Now, you read through the chapter, and I love how Moses his first interaction is loving to his father-in-law, and then he invites him in, and man, he just starts sharing with him all the things that God has done through all these plagues and everything in Egypt, and getting them out of Egypt, and all the things that have taken place with the bitter water being sweet, and the manna and the quail and the water from the rock, all these things that have happened, and he's sharing with him, and man, his father-in-law was rejoicing, and he sacrifices because he understands that, man, Yahweh is the one true God. And then he kind of sits back and watches what Moses is doing. And what Moses was doing is he's trying to be a judge between everybody. Now, you're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of Jews by the time this is all said and done with, that he's trying to judge between, and it's too much for him to do. He says, well, what you're doing is not right. And that's what we're going to pick up today, and we'll talk about this peace. And I told you that we've been kind of in this November time, the things that we're thankful for. Well, today I can say I am thankful that for the peace that God gives when everybody does their piece, when everybody carries their own workload. I'm thankful for the peace we have when we work together. And that's what we see today. So Exodus chapter 18, verses 17 through 23. So Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The thing that you do is not good. Both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out, for this thing is too much for you. You were not able to perform it by yourself. Listen now to my voice. I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. Stand before God for the people, so that you may bring the difficulties to God. And you shall teach them the statutes and the laws, and show them the way in which they must walk and the work they must do. Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And let them judge the people at all times. Then it will be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter they themselves shall judge. So it will be easier for you, and for they will bear the burden with you. If you do this thing, and God so commands you, then you will be able to endure, and all this people will also go to their place in peace." And there you see we end with peace. At first glance, you think, well, Moses is the one that's overwhelmed. But it's also Jethro, his father-in-law, notices that it's not just him. The people were getting irritated because they were having to wait so long for him to judge for them, to make a decision. So Jethro, in his advice, is saying, look, we need to spread the workload out amongst the able-bodied men that can. And notice that here again, when he's selecting leaders, he says those that would fear God, right? So the qualifications of leaders we see here. And utmost importance is that anybody that is leading others needs to fear God. The other thing is he says, it's kind of one of those, Moses, you're still leading the people. So if it's something that they can't handle, if it's a small matter, let them handle it. But if it's something a little bit harder, a little bit more difficult, let them not hesitate to bring it up, kind of bring it up the chain of command, if you will. Now, it's great advice because it was going to give peace to Moses, and it was going to give peace to the people. Moses gets some of the burden lifted off of him, and the people have more opportunities and more chances to take their burdens and their problems to other people rather than just waiting for the one. But you know, one of the most important things you will see in this is that he gives them the advice, but he essentially says, but only if it's the will of God. And I love the fact that he's giving him advice, but he doesn't say this is the will of God. He doesn't act like it's some divine revelation. And I'm not going to say that God didn't instill this in Jethro. God gave Jethro the mind and the ability to see something that Moses couldn't. And sometimes we need those fresh eyes to see that. But I love the fact that he says, look, here's what I think, but only if it's the will of God. He has just been really introduced to understand that Yahweh is the one true God. And yet here he is saying, I'm telling you, if it's not God's will, then don't do it. I think it's a great idea, but if it's not God's will, don't do it. That is the way that we have peace. We have peace when we share the workload. We have peace when we're willing to take advice from others. We have peace when we're willing to give advice when we see it. But ultimately, the way that we experience the peace of God is when we say, as Jesus did in the garden, not my will, but thine be done. If you don't have peace today, is it because you flipped that and you said, God, not your will, but mine be done? That's no way to have peace. That's a way to have heartache, heartburn, chaos, turmoil. But see, we can have the peace of God even in the midst of difficulties if we have reserved ourselves to say, if it be your will. That's the way we experience peace, not just today, but every day. God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.